I'm here with Alex Walker, who is the Mayor of Central Hawke's Bay. Kia ora, Alex, and thanks for joining me.
Kia ora, Andrew. Nice to be with you.
Yes, thanks so much. It's been a busy week for you. Yesterday, you had quite a few hours of hearings into your 3-year plan, and then today you had a council meeting. And I think you had about 280, just over 280 submissions, and then you heard from 17 people yesterday. What was your feel about how the submissions went yesterday?
It was just over 280 submissions. I've got about 800 pages of written submissions sitting on my computer desktop at the moment as well. The 17 that came to see us yesterday, I think were a really interesting cross-section of people. So very clearly we heard from our community their passion for libraries as a community hub, as a place of community well-being, if you want to use that kind of jargon, where they're a really important place in the centre of our communities. And our central option for our plan had about trimming the operating hours for the Waipawa Library, and in fact, to cut the rates even further was considered the option that potentially we close it. We heard some impassioned words from users of the library, from people who volunteer in the library, and even from 3 of our tamariki from Argyle East School, so a rural school, Charlie, Grace and Hetty, who also spoke about their passion for the library and getting involved in the civics of that. So that was great. And we also heard quite a lot of passion about how we support getting our Tarewa swing bridge across the Tukituki River reinstated. That's a project we've been working with the Waipokoro Rotary on for a while. But then we also heard some very detailed, considered thought about what efficiency means, about how we could do things smarter, and about how the affordability is going to affect our community. And probably the standout submission probably came from a lady who works for CHB Budget Services and is also a representative of our local older persons network, talking about the impact on particularly our elderly community who are on fixed incomes. And she was able to share very, very specific insights about what a rates increase will mean for the living conditions of those valuable people in our community. So we heard the gambit of feedback, but it was really well considered.
Yeah, and that's quite a number of issues there that you are dealing with. Are you pleased with the number of submissions you've had, and the fact that people are paying an interest in local issues? And because you are proposing a 20% rates rise for this year. Are you pleased that you've had good feedback?
Yeah, we've got more submissions than we had from our last 3-year plan from 3 years ago, so that's good. The engagement is different. For some, it's quite emotive and it's very values based, and we just can't cope with what you're proposing, Council. We just can't cope, and we almost can't talk about it to the extent we can't cope. But then many people have taken quite a considered in-depth look at what we've proposed, and based on what we've proposed in the community in the past, and the level of understanding of the multi-generational infrastructure deficit that we've got, the burden it's putting on us now, but also the responsibilities we have for ensuring the burden doesn't continue to the future, is actually quite astounding, and it gives me such hope for what really brave and good local civic conversations can and should be.
We also received a bit of advice from a former deputy mayor of your council, Ian Sharp, where he cautioned you against picking the lower hanging fruit, and also if you cut services, it's very difficult to reintroduce them. Do you think as a council you took that on board?
Yeah, I think that's interesting because I think it speaks to a value set that this council has had for probably 5 or 6 years now, and that is to not be afraid of the big things, and knowing that things, when they're really hard, are actually the transformational things, and not just to go to the easy conversations, and just the fact that we're proposing such a big investment in our infrastructure and have been up until now and now continue to, despite the challenges we're facing. I think our values are aligned with what he spoke about, actually. I was reassured by that, and I've been reassured by others in the community that think like that too. So that's been great. Still doesn't take away the pain and the
Yeah.
intimidating impact of what this means for some households, though.
Yeah, you also heard from your local regional councillor, Will Foley, who I think, in a polite way, took you a bit to task about opting for a 3-year plan as opposed to a 10-year plan. What were your feelings on what he had to say about that?
Yeah, I think he's right to challenge our thinking on that, and also right to challenge our thinking on whether our regulatory frames and our planning frameworks align with our vision for the community. And I think that's a really considered thing to put forward. Um, and I totally understand the risks that he's talking about. But what we have done here is we haven't just presented a 3-year window or considered it in a 3-year window. We still have got the bones of a 30-year infrastructure strategy in the background, and a 10-year financial strategy, although we've only presented the 3 years. So we have taken the legislative relief that has been offered to us because it's such a difficult time to make a budget in these circumstances, but we've left as much of the long-term thinking and planning in the background as we possibly could, that was sensible.
And now you had a full council meeting today. Was yesterday discussed, and what was said, and any decisions made from it?
Yeah, so we just had a brief update paper in amongst a variety of other things. In fact, we had things like our quarterly financial report, which prompted quite a bit of conversation about whether the downwards trajectory of things like our consenting activities, has that been well reflected into the first year of the 3-year plan and those sorts of things. But we did have a 3-year plan conversation where basically what I did was open the floor to the councillors across. Basically, there's 7 key topics in our 3-year plan. So we've got land transport, stormwater, drinking water and wastewater together, reducing services and efficiencies, swimming pool targeted rates for fence inspections, development contributions, and the swing bridge. So 7 sort of key issues that we consulted on. Opened the floor to the councillors to pose questions that they need to have answered to be able to make a good decision next week when we do deliberation. So there was things like what additional information that they would like to see about who uses the transfer station in Waipawa. Is it just Waipawa people, or do we have records to show that it's others that are coming, so that we can do some really great decision making next week? So these are gaps in their knowledge and things they wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
So that was really helpful, really helpful.
Now, you mentioned other matters were raised at the council meeting and decisions made. What were the highlights? Just give us a takeaway from today's meeting.
Lots of rigor into the details today. I think that councillors are really feeling, the eyes of our community are very firmly on every move that council is making at the moment,
Yeah.
about how they're showing efficiency and value. And so we didn't make any really big key decisions today, but we were in quite some rigor, particularly around the financials and the pressing and testing on where the council is up to right now. It's not going to be a pretty end to the end of the financial year coming up for us, particularly in that consenting activity. We've also seen a fall off on solid waste activity as well. And so, but we made some calls earlier in the year to slow down our capital work program. During the recovery to the cyclone, we completely slowed down all our drinking water and wastewater work. So we're going to have a really interesting end to the financial year.
Well, Alex Walker, thank you so much for your time. Good to chat to you, and I'm sure we'll be talking about these and other subjects more in the future.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it.